Good morning or afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here for this post-WWE Survivor Series 2021 edition of the Daily. It's our good friend Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Pew, 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 pew. Got a little finger gun action going on to celebrate Survivor Series, a little Yosemite Sam. Pew, 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 pew. Survivor Series, Black Friday week, Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday season music. It's a Monday.
Sound like Tony D'Angelo over there. Hey, it's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
Yeah, right. Well, we got a lot to get to here, obviously, today. Later on, of course, we will have some bonus audio for you in between the news block and the mailbag segment. You're going to get to hear more AEW Full Gear Media Scrum audio. Today, you're going to hear from Jay Lethal. I think that this audio is actually when Jay maybe met Tony Khan for the very first time. It's a very unique bit of audio, so stick around. Jay Lethal will be here in the house. And then, of course, at the end of the show, we'll dive into the mailbag. We're going to look at Survivor Series 2021. But you know what? Before, I guess, pick the match of the night we thought from Survivor Series 2021. That'll bring us right into news you can use. News to leave a bruise. Let's look at Survivor Series 2021. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of it here, how do you feel after the show, Michael?
Completely the same as before I watched the show, except maybe a little bit more concerned about the hellscape that is our future of cross-brand collaborations in sports media. There you go.
Yeah, dude. I didn't really write it into the run sheet here, but Otis eating that pizza in the middle of that Rock Battle Royal really just, and I'm going to say left a bad taste in my mouth, and that's not a knock on Big Pizza Hut because I actually don't dislike Pizza Hut, but it really just, it took away so much, man. It really killed my soul a little bit, the Pizza Hut stuff, a part of the show last night. I mean, it really... Yeah, it wasn't that good. Did not make
it was the Pizza Hut, and that whole match was focused on the pizza and the winner getting the pizza. And these guys are, I mean, I know that like they're, budgetary restraints nowadays in WWE or whatever they want to call it, but these guys can afford their own Pizza Hut pizzas, I would assume, on a WWE salary. But anyway, that was weird. Their opening packages, whenever they blend them with these cross-promotional, Netflix movie deals, it feels really weird for me for them to take all this footage from a movie that somebody else made and stick it into their storylines. It takes the edge off of the product, and I take the product a lot less seriously as a result, I think.
Yeah, man, that, and the other, back to the Pizza Hut stuff, because we'll talk about Netflix here in just a second, because it's tied to a much bigger story. But it makes me so sad the way Otis gets used.
Sure.
Like, but before, when he was funny Otis, he kind of did all the funny fat guy stuff that, they used to make Belushi and Farley do and all that, and it was whatever. Then they go and they say, no. We're going to make you a badass. We're going to make you somebody tough. We're going to pair you up with Gable, a couple of shooters over here. But they get that Pizza Hut bit, and they're like, you know what? Tonight, you can go back to being the funny fat guy for us. And I feel very bad for Otis in that situation because I'm not kidding. And I'm not saying this to be mean or anything, but like that, go back and there's a famous Chippendales dancer sketch that Chris Farley did on SNL. And that particular sketch led to Farley having some real depression issue after that. And, I get it. He's a guy, right? We all get upset when Piggy James and all that stuff comes up about women. But I just thought it was a really tone deaf, poor use of advertising and one of your wrestlers, and just I want to bury that Pizza Hut segment so bad. I want it to be down there with 5,000 copies of the ET of Atari video game at the bottom of a trash yard somewhere. I really did not like the Pizza Hut stuff.
Yeah. And to your point, Nick, we're in 2021, body image and all that stuff. Like it's not used for laughs in that way. And I'm not going to excuse the way things have been done in the past, but comedy evolves, society changes, right? And I think we look back and we try to get better as a result. And it feels like not just about this segment, but many times WWE is still stuck in 1995 when the original, Chris Farley, Patrick Swayze Chippendale segment aired, I guess. So
yeah. And Antonio here saying, I feel bad for Omos. He won, but he didn't even get a slice of pizza. And you know what? Hadn't even thought about it, but good night for Omos there, right? The future bright for Omos after last night.
That's it. Future, does he get a future promotional deal with Pizza Hut? Like, what was the deal with the pizza anyway? Like, are they going to carry it around on Raw? It's going to get moldy. I don't know. Somebody steals
Also,
it. That's the storyline.
and like, I don't want to get too like, nitpicky here, but like, we're still in a pandemic. Do you want to take a piece of pizza, wrap your hand around it, throw it out to the audience, right? Some dude's gonna catch it and eat it as like a joke. It's just gross. Like,
man.
all of it was gross. It was all gross.
There's like grease on that pizza that drips across the audience as it goes. Like everybody's getting stuck with this pizza grease now, right?
Gross. All right. Well, hey, who wrote it here was Samantha. Let's all talk about the most important thing last night. Who stole the egg? So yes, The Rock did not appear at Survivor Series last night. However, Vince McMahon did appear alongside Cleopatra's egg, which is, I haven't seen it, but apparently from the film Red Notice with The Rock, and PW Insider saying this was also tied into that film. It was being paid for by Netflix, like all the zombie stuff. Roman Reigns gets brought into the office at one point for Vince to show him this $100 million egg, and oh no, the egg has disappeared. So PW Insider saying tonight on Raw, whole SmackDown Raw roster, they're going to be there, I guess, to be interrogated by Adam Pearce or whatever. And in regards to The Rock not appearing, the Observer saying it wouldn't have been possible for him to appear. The reason for that was due to him being overseas in Europe at the moment for a movie. So he wasn't able to travel due to COVID-19 quarantine restrictions. So it's really like three stories here, but which one do you want to kind of go with first?
I want to talk about the $100 million golden Fabergé egg that he comes. Vince McMahon is back on TV, right? Don't bury the lead here, Nick. Vince was back on TV after months away, and he shows up in a limo days after we've had layoffs due to budget concerns, and literally carries this egg in front of a locker room full of people and promotes how he has this $1 million egg. Like, that's a really bad taste, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, sure. If we were to believe that this was a real thing happening in a real environment, I get it. This, honestly, like, I don't hate this as much as others have. Vince is surprisingly like lucid on screen these days, by the way. There's something about his eyes, some of the eyes and the way he moves.
There's called Botox. That's what that is. That's Botox.
He's got very shifty eyes these days. He's always kind of looking at you and raising his eyebrows a lot,
Don't you sometimes feel like when he's talking, though, he's just kind of talking in a general space? He's not, I feel like he's like there's somebody across the table from him, and I feel like he's still talking into this blank space in between the person and the camera, and he's like, let's go find the locker room, and let's go interrogate everybody. He's kind of moving a lot, right? Like, it worries me just a little bit.
I always get the vibe he's just about to cast some kind of evil spell. There's a certain kind of veteran mysticism to Vince these days.
He looks good for his age, though. I'd be critical. He looks good for his age.
Yeah, no, he looks great. So, yeah, the storyline here of who stole the Rock's egg, I don't hate it that as much as others. I mean, at least there'll be some kind of payoff. It'll probably be something. I hope it's not something dumb, but I saw somebody earlier. The chat room is moving too quick here today. Said maybe Hornswoggle will be the one to steal the egg. That would be the perfect kind of punctuation mark for this, wouldn't it?
Is there a perfect punctuation? If it's the comedy angle they want to go for, it's the comedy angle they'll get with Hornswoggle. But to me, it feels like a bunch of airtime last night to a very long show dedicated to a storyline that I just really don't care that much about.
Look, delinquent gambling addict Baron Corbin, I could see him being, or Happy Corbin. I could see delinquent Happy Corbin taking that thing. Okay. I think Rikishi taking it and saying, I did it for Roman, right? Would also be very good. I'm a fan of Roman or the Usos having taken it to get one over on The Rock, and maybe Raw ends with Roman throwing it off a bridge, right? Something like that.
Triple H is still upset about NXT 2.0. This is his secretive revenge plan.
Look, now, here's the thing. Now, DX Vex, you're saying it was Triple H with Shawn to buy NXT from Vince. That's why they stole the egg. Now, earlier today, there was a report that came out. I forget exactly from where, but it was like rumor killer on Triple H starting his own promotion. And we debated running the news item on the site because we had never heard the rumor, right? But I said, this is something people are talking about. I think there's interest. We ended up not running that particular news item just because it didn't seem to be based in reality at the end of the day. So as much fun as it is to make those jokes and all that, and I've heard a million of them, right? Oh, the egg got cut for budget reasons, right?
Sure.
The egg is defected to AEW, right?
Sure.
Maybe he'll show up on Rampage or something.
Sure.
I don't
You want the realistic storyline to follow up the $100 million egg getting stolen and not calling the FBI. You want the more realistic take.
I like Adam, Repo Man, please, right? The Repo Man. Where's he been? Why isn't he stealing the egg? So anyway, all of this is nonsense. The thing everybody was saying,
Pro wrestling, what is life?
The thing that really is the top line story here is that The Rock didn't appear at Survivor Series. Right now, it seemed like we were going to get a surprise appearance. There was tons of promotion. There was this egg thing. The egg goes missing. And then at the end of the night, Roman goes out to fight Big E. Nice competitive bout. And then ultimately beats him clean as a sheet. And no Rock. How did you feel about no Rock at Survivor Series?
I thought this whole show was strange from the perspective that it felt like a whole lot of nothing. And I think that's what I feel about the Rock thing, right? Which is, hey, look, we're going to promote the Rock all night long, 25 years, even though he spent like the last 20 years completely away from WWE for the most part. It's weird to celebrate him being like a 25-year legacy when it's like most of it isn't spent with the company. I thought that was a strange, like, self pat on the back, but it's Vince McMahon. Unless you're going to do The Rock showing up at Survivor Series, kind of like we had The Undertaker's big farewell at Survivor Series last year, whenever, and they didn't do it. So it's just like, why are we spending all this time promoting The Rock and this egg and everything else if it doesn't matter to what's actually happening week to week with our current stars? And that's the problem with their product, right?
And here's the thing is I understand, you built a lot of suspense. Like a lot of people are clamoring now. Oh, you've got to give it to us, right? But they were already doing that, right? They were already saying how much they wanted to have this match. This was intentionally prodding them over the fact that The Rock wasn't going to be there. In my head, I was thinking back to CM Punk's AEW debut and how it was like the worst kept secret in pro wrestling, and how Tony and Punk would go out there and they'd say, "Oh, I don't know, maybe we'll see." And then I think to myself, like, what if that Rampage where Punk came back had instead started with Tony Khan backstage and is getting out of his car and he had a pipe bomb in his hand, right? And he's like, "Who put a pipe bomb in my car?" And everyone's like, "Whoa, pipe bomb. That's the sign. That's CM Punk. We're going to get him to close Rampage tonight." And then no Punk, right? Everybody would have been livid in that situation. And here we have WWE doing almost just that. And this is why fans are getting burned on your product, is things like this. Will you get them back when Rock Roman comes around? Probably. But for the time being, I feel like you pissed a lot of people off.
Well, and top down, right? Like, let's go through the entire lineup. I'm not going to go through the whole card here, but you open up with Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch in this big heated backstage rivalry. We got the dirt sheets telling us stuff. It's going to be great. And you end it with this fluky roll up. It's like and there was like no contest throughout the night. We have Bianca Belair, who I was glad to see her get her wins back, but she's been beat down for so many weeks. Why do I care about that after a while? I think the shows were even Steven. Big E, everybody is so behind Big E right now, and you beat him clean. Like, you just lined up the fans to be pissed off about so many things, but they do it over and over and over again as a company, right?
And so yeah, Roman beat Big E. I'll throw a little flavor on this while we're here. PW Insider saying there was worry, what was described as a minor freakout backstage during the main event between Big E and Roman. Officials were concerned about time running out. Pay-per-view is scheduled to go off the air no later than 11:35 p.m. Eastern and still had the main event to go. WWE did end up with several minutes left, but in the moment when there was concern backstage, there were people wondering why so much time was given to the entrances for the men's 5-on-5 elimination match. Preach. WWE never actually announced an official storyline update to the Lesnar suspension, but during the show they did say there's rumors that the suspension's no longer going to be indefinite. So, yes, those entrances for that 5-on-5 men's match, brutal, dude. Like, what are we doing, man? That was so long for nothing. It was weird. I'm glad this was brought up, right?
They put over the entrances, the graphics, the promotions, the other brands, all of those things. They put it before actual storytelling week in and week out. They feel like the pomp and circumstance is better than the in-ring product and the stories they carry their fans through. And I think it's unfortunate. I mean, again, the video package to lead into Roman Reigns versus Big E was great, but they weren't really fighting for much of anything that's going to last beyond last night. It was a good match too. Give those two stars props. Big E, Roman, they had one hell of a match. But if you had built this to WrestleMania with some real table stakes on the line, it would have mattered a whole lot more. And I just feel like they don't care about that. It is, what can we do to wash, rinse, repeat, and get ourselves to another payday?
It is one focus right now. We are working towards the biggest wrestling match of all time, the $1 billion bout between Roman Reigns and The Rock. Nothing can stand between now and then. We have to keep Roman as strong as possible, even if it means Big E's going to get pinned here, right? And I wonder now, with the tease that Brock Lesnar, the suspension's no longer indefinite, possibly in the mix, it looks like in between Roman and Rock, we're going to get another helping of Roman Lesnar. And does Roman roll through Brock again? I'm not saying it's bad or wrong. It's just weird. I don't know that we've ever seen Brock be used in this kind of way to just solely heat somebody up.
It's strange. I mean, if you're building towards Rock and Roman, maybe at WrestleMania, but then does The Rock beat Roman Reigns, or who is going to be set up to beat Roman Reigns in the long term? It's a peculiar thing, but also we're building towards WrestleMania. And this is another thing that gets me, Nick. They called it last night, advertising it. They called it the most stupendous 2-night WrestleMania of all time. And again, do you think somebody under the age of 50 is like, man, stupendous? Well, I'm going to watch the shit out of that show if it's going to be. They've done like 2-night WrestleManias. The company leans way too much into self-grandizing, I should say, rather than actually putting forethought into what connects with their audience.
You hated the descriptor. That's what you took issue with.
Stupendous. The most stupendous.
Stupendous, right? It's a Ryback word. Stupendous.
Wow.
So you brought up Becky, Charlotte. Yeah, Becky defeated Charlotte holding the ropes. We'll get to the other part of this here in just a second. I felt how you felt. It was I don't know that there's any way Becky and Charlotte could have delivered on the hype for this bout. It was off the chain. It was uncontrollable. And I felt bad after this bout was over, watching Becky's promo and realizing how mentally difficult this period has been for her. I mean, we're talking about a woman who 6 months ago had a baby inside of her, right? And now she's back and she's trying to find her groove back and balance all the family stuff. And Charlotte's over here right now. And again, I'm just going to call it like we see it right now because I have no idea what happens behind closed doors. But it would seem that Charlotte intentionally trying to rattle Becky and throw her off her game at this particular point of time to reassert herself. I'm very happy these women are going back to their respective brands, because as much as everybody really enjoyed the hype and the build and the story around these two, it was rough for me after that show seeing the apparent emotional toll that this whole program has had on Becky recently.
Yeah, I mean, we all love a little bit of realism in our pro wrestling, and we love a little bit of scuttlebutt behind the scenes about, man, what this part was unplanned and this was unscripted. But a fair call out there. Becky Lynch has gone through a lot. She's also gone through an entire character shift on screen, right? She re-debuted at SummerSlam in this big moment. She got lots of flack for that, and I again, maybe not entirely her fault. Some of that's the booking, but I feel like she took the brunt of the "we were behind Bianca Belair" flack, and it's hard to kind of put up with all that. Not that she's not a strong person, but you're a different person after you have a baby and you've got to go back on the road and leave that child behind and do all of these things. We don't know where she is. We're not her, but I do think it's fair to say this has not been an easy story to get to, and the behind the stage drama, I'm sure, has worn both of these women out. But Charlotte Flair, like, where is she right now? Like, you're Becky, you're there to do a job. Your husband's there to do a job. Charlotte, been with somebody who's in a different company. You're kind of having your way backstage. That makes it even more uncertain because you don't know what she's going to do. I don't think you have that same trust if you're Becky Lynch in Charlotte Flair.
And you mentioned the relationship with Andrade. Now, I put it in the headline, and I saw some people early on say, must be a slow news day. I cannot stress to you enough how coming out of Survivor Series with so many, many buzzy things going on, it is a no contest what people were interested in today. It was the top item as soon as we ran it, and it is still the top item on the news site right now. Andrade, and we double-checked this, has unfollowed Charlotte on Twitter and Instagram. The two have been together since 2019. And again, it's difficult to discern what is real, what is not. What we're seeing right now does seem like Charlotte is asserting herself, making some very strong decisions in her life right now. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, right? But that is going to take a toll on everybody around you, right? When you're going through a roller coaster ride like this. So it's something to follow, right? But for now, it's just some unfollowings. But there's probably more to this, obviously.
Sex sells, right? Biggest story of the day. Is that what we're supposed to do to end relationships in 2021? Is you unfollow your significant other or your partner or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever?
Yeah. Or
What if my
yeah? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what if my spouse isn't on Twitter? Am I just hosed from the get-go?
Yeah, you can't ever leave her then, right? I mean, a modern day agreement say mutual.
Damn.
Yeah, no Twitter, no Twitter, no deal.
Prenups. Gotta have prenups. Kanye was right, huh?
Gary asking, did he unfollow Rick? Not sure. That's a great question. That's a great question. We'll find out. You brought up Bianca Belair earlier. Of course, the sole survivors in the 2 Survivor Series match, Seth Rollins, Bianca Belair, both from Raw. You look over at SmackDown, Liv Morgan positioned to go up against Charlotte next. You also have who is next for Roman? Brock Lesnar. But now over on Raw, I definitely see Seth stepping into the position as Big E's next opponent to heat him up and give him back some momentum after this loss to Roman Reigns. And Bianca Belair going back at Becky Lynch here. And it's interesting, and not really a spoiler, more of an announcement. On Thursday, we will have a Thanksgiving special. I recorded it this morning with Jimmy Corderas. So it's just going to be Jimmy and I talking about wrestling and Survivor Series and stuff like that. Different conversations than we've had here. But one that I did want to call out is he felt like the booking for Becky in that Charlotte match and the promo afterwards where she's very emotional set the stage for a babyface turn. And I'm coy on that because I don't see Bianca Belair turning heel or stepping into that program. I think that this is all going to be a bit of a fever dream, what we saw with Becky and Charlotte. And tonight on Raw, I'm expecting Becky to get back to what she was doing, but I could be very wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bianca's not turning heel. I think she's been very successful in that babyface role and winning for her team, right? To contrast the heel win in Seth Rollins SmackDown, to have our even Steven yin and yang, right? Women's world title match goes to Raw, men's world title match goes to SmackDown, so on and so forth. I don't think they're going to want to turn her, but I also think Becky's heel run hasn't been quite as successful as maybe she hoped it would be, or maybe the companies hoped it would be. And big time Beck or whatever they're kind of going with there. I understand why they wanted to do that with her, but I just feel like Becky Lynch is that Stone Cold Steve Austin tweener character that we all want to pull for, and she's against the man, and she is the man. But where does that leave Raw? Like, we've got to have somebody step up. Did Bayley, where's Bayley right now? Like,
well, and I see Antonio here and Samantha calling out Doudrop possibly being the one that's next in line for Bianca. Maybe somebody else steps up that's not Bianca or Doudrop to Becky. I personally don't hate the idea of Bianca doing something to turn her heel and flip the roles with her and Becky. I think the fans would be far more into that. And Bianca's kind of hit that point, I think, where, very over, but to kind of get her into that next stratosphere, there's going to need to be a bump in the road. You're going to have to turn the volume down a little bit to turn it back up. And so I personally would kind of like to see a double turn between these two right now.
Sure. That could work. Who else could who else could Becky Lynch feud with if she does turn into this? And is Alexa Bliss on Raw nowadays? I don't know if we've seen much of her lately. So
she's gone. She's weird. She's weirdly gone right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Asuka, I don't know. I think there's other opponents out there. I don't see them going back to Becky Bianca right now. I think they're going to leave those separate for the time being and maybe float somebody else in there as a potential heel opponent for Becky.
Well, Randy Orton made history last night with his win over the Usos. Randy Orton now has the record for most WWE pay-per-view matches ever. Any thoughts?
I think it's interesting that WWE latched onto the stat, right? Randy Orton put out a great tweet on Friday about this because the fans online were talking about it before anybody else. He's like, records, he didn't keep up with records when I entered the business. And he was like, but it's cool to know this. And I think it was last night, most pay-per-views. And then tonight is, if he wrestles tonight on Raw, it's like another record for him. Okay. But the WWE team ran with that, which is kind of cool. So good for him. Like he is the everlasting WWE superstar. Am I right?
I think he's going to break Rick's record. I think that I don't think it's going to be John. I think Charlotte, there's a good chance she might, but I think Randy's, all the stars are just lining up for this guy. I think he needs 3 more runs with the title.
I still think they're going to go back to John Cena at some point and just cap that off with John Cena's career. I think they just love Cena too much, All
right. Well, lastly here, Damian Priest seemingly turned heel by laying out Shinsuke and Rick Booge in the opening match there with the guitar. Did it feel like a heel turn to you? That's what everybody's saying here, Michael.
I guess. Maybe. Yeah, because, everybody loves Booge. I don't know. Maybe.
Doesn't sound like this really got you going for the night, Michael. Does it seem?
I feel like they've got a lot of work to do. Damian Priest has been doing everything that's asked of him, and he's got a great look, but yeah, you need more than this to really get me invested in a character. A heel turn doesn't do it for me, folks.
Well, Roman Reigns, real quickly before we launch into some non-WWE news, then to Jay and then real quickly the mailbag. Roman Reigns was on Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon this past week. I guess he talked about how he sings Mariah Carey Christmas songs in the car with his daughter, and she gets very embarrassed. And some fan tweeted out, you should sing them on SmackDown. And I guess Mariah Carey herself, Mimi, jumped over on Twitter and said, would love to see it. So Mariah Carey has endorsed the idea of Roman and the Usos singing All I Want for Christmas Is You on SmackDown. And how do you pass it up now, Michael? How do you not do it?
Oh, man. Right? I bet Vince was watching that segment just salivating. Oh, pal, this is it. This is the big moment for Friday night this week. Yeah, it's going to be good. You reckon Mariah Carey can get Mariah Carey for SmackDown? It's on Fox, right?
I think she'd do it. I think Mariah Carey would do it. Sure, why not? Lastly here, before we get to Jay in the mailbag, Kenny Omega has officially vacated the AAA Mega Championship. The Observer this morning said they thought there might be a multi-man match to determine a new champion. I actually spoke to somebody over the weekend about this, so I'll throw in what I heard, which is they're leaning more towards a tournament and not a multi-man match. But we'll see who's right here when the official announcement of how they're going to take care of this vacant title comes out. Me or Meltzer? I go with me. I bet on me. Anyway,
I'm on this podcast, so I'm on your side here, right? The AAA, right? AAA always be doing weird things sometimes when crazy swerves happen. It is unfortunate. Kenny has had such a great run with that title. I know there were reasons behind it, but it just felt like perfect timing a few months ago. If he would have lost the belt to Andrade, that would have been the moment, but we're stuck with this, so it is what it is.
Thank you, Michael, for joining me at Top Show Talk all the news today. Thank you to everybody for tuning in right now. All the great comments that popped up in the comment section. Of course, AEW, thank you so much for the access. Let me in the scrum there. Talk to Jay Lethal. We'll be back tomorrow with more from the scrums. Adam Page is going to be the scrum we run tomorrow. And then Wednesday, I'll actually be at AEW Dynamite and Rampage. They're going to be here in Chicago. Me and my Tuesday co-host, EJ Cameron. I got a +1 for him. It'll be the first time I'm going to an AEW show with a friend. Right, not sitting with all the journalists, and
he says this as somebody who's attended an AEW show with me. So take that as you will, folks.
I got a +1 where I was like, this is just, we're gonna drink, and I'm gonna enjoy this as just like a fan. I don't have to do scrums. I'm just gonna exist at AEW Dynamite and Rampage on Wednesday.
They're doing some good runs right now. Just get a quick plug in. They're coming to Greensboro, December 22nd, and then they're coming back to North Carolina, Raleigh, I think January 6th or something. So I got some AEW in my future as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, what we got in our future right now is the mailbag. I guess that means we're in the present. So pretty straightforward. Was match of the night at Survivor Series at Week Daily. That's the account to go to if you want to vote in our daily poll. Over 200 votes, 68.1 Becky Charlotte, 23.5 Roman Big E, and then 4.5 for Men's Survivor Series and everything else. But really just a blow away here. Was Becky Charlotte that noticeably better than everything else on the card last night?
I don't think, I would have voted Roman Reigns Big E, I think was fantastic. Maybe I just slept a little bit on that opener. I think it was good. I think they were both good. I don't know that it was 50% better than that or 100% better. It's twice the number of votes, right? That's pretty strong. What do you think?
It's 3 times the amount of votes that Becky Lynch got over Reigns and Big E. And I think the vote is more on the hype than the match.
Sure.
And I think that's really what this is more a reflection of. People voted Lynch Charlotte because they loved the realism and the build to it. And I think that's where the vote comes from. I feel bad for Big E, man. Like this run, I mean, I hope Seth can heat him up and get him to where he needs to go. But like, this hasn't felt like a world title run to me with Big E quite yet.
I feel like you needed a big moment to kick this off. I think Roman Reigns, Big E, I feel like Big E should have been the one to defeat Roman Reigns for the world title. And I think it would have set it up very different than kind of the hot shot booking they used to get it there. That being said, we're getting to WrestleMania season. You pair him with the right opponent, make it feel like a big freaking deal. It might not be Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, or Roman Reigns, The Rock big. There's still chance for this thing to work out right. And I do appreciate Big E has been giving this his all, and I think it has elevated his stardom just that much more. So there's some pros in there.
And Big E wants the Goldberg retirement match. Who else is? I mean, I guess Riddle wants Goldberg too, but I think Goldberg only got like 1 or 2 matches. Like, go with somebody that wants to work with the guy
Right.
for Christ's sake. So
That's right.
Anyway, all right, Michael. That brings us to the end of the show today. I will, like I said, be back tomorrow. I'll be joined by EJ Cameron from Second City, Adam Page's AEW Full Gear Media Scrum. We're brought to you by WrestlingInc.com, which is on all the socials. Of course, the Wrestling Inc. podcast goes live at night after the big shows, including tonight after Raw. Tune into that. Michael, what do you want to put over here before we wrap up the show today?
I just want to put over all the fans in the chat room listening to us right now, all the fans out there listening to us via audio. Just, you know what? It's Thanksgiving week, and I am thankful that we have an audience that stays engaged with us, and I appreciate all of you. So have a happy holidays. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Eat lots of turkey, and please know I appreciate you.
Yes, and I am at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.